Welcome back to another episode of Broke Up, Not Broken. If you're going through a divorce, don't worry, you're not alone. This is your one-stop shop for mastering your life and your finances throughout the entire divorce process. Today, we're thrilled to have my pal, David Pasqualone, with us. David is a born-again believer in God, a father of two remarkable people, a lifelong learner, and a self-appointed guinea pig for anything that he promotes. He's a marketing guru, a website designer, and a sales coach by profession. David loves motivating people and organizations to clarify their purpose, mission, and vision, to lead them out of the confusion of the world and into the light so they can know clarity, get excited about their purpose, and achieve the vision that they've set before themselves. Leading by example, David inspires those around him to be the best version of themselves, take action to actually do what they need to do each day, and steadfastly see their purpose through to completion. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by your divorce or your current station of life, please don't be. David's here to help us break it down so you can feel confident and prepared by creating a clearer picture of not only your financial situation, but of your personal situation as well, and how you can tackle some of the personal challenges that you might be facing. So grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice, buckle up, and let's get you once again personally and financially empowered. Dave, it's so great to have you with us, man.
Oh, it's an honor to be here, Jamie. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So in our lead up to our conversation today, we were commiserating a little bit about the experiences we've both had with divorce. So maybe share a little bit about, your experience there and how you got to be in the position you're in.
So the first day of college, I met a woman who I fell in love with. And, it really was love at first sight. We were friends for a year, quote unquote friends. We dated for 2 years. Then we got married, and we were married a total of 21 years. But before I married her, I'm like, man, I shouldn't be doing this. Mm-hmm. And then we got married and things weren't right through the marriage, but I made a vow to God. I made a vow to her, kids, family. So I made the best of it. And I didn't tell anybody anything really going on because I thought it was me. No, it's got to be me because she's like perfect, right? Well, fast forward to 2014 and some seriously weird things were happening and going on. And it made me question myself. Am I going crazy? Am I making this up? And I'm not a jealous guy. I've never been a jealous guy. Not today, even after everything that happened. But long story short, she was having, at that time, an affair. There's probably others, there's suspicion. But there's one particular situation going on, and it was making my mind where I couldn't even believe it was happening. It's like, oh, it's got to be me. I'm making this up. And when I talked to her, she twisted around. She's, people joke about, oh, I have OCD, or, oh, I'm a narcissist, but she's a legit textbook narcissist. Mm-hmm. And man, she had me warped and confused and nothing good. So in 2015, everything came out to the surface that was going on. And I tried to take the high road, try to keep the family together, exhausted myself. And while I'm sitting here trying to focus on God, my kids, and putting myself last, your health goes down, your blood pressure goes up. It was a nightmare in every way. And then in 2018, I just kind of emotionally gave up the fight. I just got depressed and cranky. And in 2021, we ended up getting divorced because I'm like, I'm going to die from stress. I've tried everything. So we did the Hail Mary separation after, hundreds of thousands of dollars in counseling, tens of thousands for sure. But if you add it all up, I'm sure we broke six figures easy. And, if two people don't want to change, it's not going to happen. And she would say stuff to my face, like during this period behind closed doors. She'd cry to people on, oh, look how angry Dave is. Whoa. I was angry. I'm not going to lie to you, but I wasn't. It was after all the betrayals and all the abuse and the stealing of money and all these things. So nobody sees that. They just see, why is Dave depressed and angry? So she'd manipulate this hardcore. My kids were pissed at her for 4 years. I spent 4 years restoring her relationship with them. And then how does she repay me? She turns them against me with lies. If I do something, I'll own my own stuff. But that slow, Satan's the author of confusion, planting seeds, she messed with her head. She's going to be accountable for that when she has to face God. But she really screwed me over and the kids. And so I look back with regret for staying too long. I was trying to wait for the miracle. I was trying to wait for her to change or for me to change. I was doing everything I could, seeing counselors privately, reading books, trying to be a better man. But at the end of the day, if both people aren't going to work towards a relationship with God, they're not going to work towards a relationship with each other. So all that happened. And then in 2021, we did the separation. She made me out to be the bad guy. Dave wants a divorce. No, Dave wants peace. And after 6 years of fighting, this is the last ditch. As soon as I moved out, she switches it to a divorce, all sorts of crazy shenanigans most people don't know about, not that I don't want to talk about publicly, but she was doing wicked, horrible things in private. I'm sitting there, again, angry because I know what's going on. And all this is happening. So all I cared about at that point, Jamie, was just getting out of the marriage and getting the kids safe. And what I mean by safe is she told me, I don't love you. I've never, and she said this repeatedly through the marriage. I don't love you. I've never loved you. I know you love me unconditionally. I know I can do what I want. You'll always take me back. I mean, she really targeted me and abused me and was a horrible human. So when it came to the divorce, all she cared about during the relationship was money. I could make a bunch of money. She'd spend more than that. So it just, every aspect of the marriage was just exhausting. The only blessing is I learned a lot, and more than anything, I had my two kids, my son and my daughter. Other than that, I'd throw it away. But all those experiences make us who we are today. So in 2021, we get the divorce. Once the divorce happens, I basically offered to give her everything. I just wanted peace and to know that kids put in writing that, the house goes to the kids and the kids are taken care of. And at this point, they're teenagers. And there's stuff I can't talk about, but long story short, she gets an attorney because she wants more when I was offering 100%. And it works out, if anything, in my favor. But I basically started financially over in my 40s, left her the house, and so the kids had a safe place. The kids had consistency. I was living in a travel trailer. I was living on people's, couches, my friends. I lived with my mother for a few months. It's humiliating in your 40s, right? And at the end of the day, stayed the course. God turned everything around physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, every way. Now I'm better than I've ever been. So for the people out there who are maybe like, oh, I've had it worse, or it's not that bad, but it sucks, or, oh yeah, I know exactly where you're at. Whatever you're going through in divorce, you made a vow to God and you want to keep it. And the only biblical, to me, my belief is the only biblical reason for divorce is adultery. But even that, you want to try to fight for your marriage. I did that, but I went way too long. And that's, again, I'm pissed at myself for doing that. Well, my intentions are good. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So all I did was damage myself and my children by staying in that marriage way too long. And then once that's all over and said and done, you learn from it, you grow from it, you change. You don't want to go back to those same situations and just you don't want to remarry somebody the same or worse. So you got to allow yourself time to heal and grow. But no matter who you are, we make a vow to God, we keep it. We make a vow to each other and we hopefully keep it. But if you can't, make sure you're balancing what's healthy and right. Not what friends are saying, not what society's saying, just between you and God. What can you pillow your head at night and have peace with? And I don't know if I answer too much or too little.
No, this is amazing, man. And I'm sorry that you went through that. And a lot of the people that we work with have some very similar experiences. There's even in my own situation, there's very much narcissistic tendencies and
the phrases that come out. I'll bet anybody $1,000. If you wrote your story and we had 10 men write their story, we don't know each other, different wives, different cultures, but the same tendencies from these wives. Now, men go crazy too. Men go off the deep end, but I'm just saying, sure. I'm a man. I'm talking about my ex-wife. But your ex-wife, my ex-wife, the phrases, the sayings, the things that happen, the way they're being groomed by society, which is really a puppet of Satan, all Satan's doing is run the same playbook over and over and over again. And even within our homes and churches, we live in this twisted society where women are put on a false pedestal. Listen, there's men and there's women. They're different, but they're equal. I'm not saying a man's better than a woman. I'm not saying a woman's better than a man. I love my liver. I love my kidney. They're the same in the sense of organs, but they're different. They do different jobs. And we need to have the same playing field in the sense of morality, but there's different standards we each need to be held to. And women today, 8 out of 10 adulterous affairs are being done by the women. So something in our society is twisted and broken right now. And what you're saying is the same playbook is being run over and over again. Satan's not creative, but he's consistent. And he does the same thing over and over again in our families.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, I've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie before. And so as you were going through your story and sharing all that with us, which I'm super appreciative of, I mean, it really just opened up like I have like 50 questions now. So because there's so much there, that I think we can learn from, but we don't have time for the 50. So I guess where I'll start is you talked a little bit about some of the lessons that you learned. So what are some of those lessons, and how can some of our listeners take those lessons that you've learned and maybe impart them in their own situation?
So number one is seriously going back to the beginning. I loved her. Samson in the Bible. Did you ever read the story of Samson and Delilah? Mm-hmm. How did that moron let her cut him? 3 times she tries to betray him, and then he lets her cut her hair and he's in prison. Why would you be so stupid? And there's a verse in the Bible, because he loved her. And then you think of Adam and Eve in the garden. Eve fell for Satan's lies, and Adam went along with it because he loved Eve. So from the garden, from the beginning, men have chosen women over God, and it's not right. So even though I loved her, I never should have married her. So number one, if you're about to get married, everybody on TV and friends are feeling, it's just jitters. It's just jitters. There's a difference between marriage jitters and this is wrong. So I don't care if it's 2 minutes before the wedding. If you're about to get married and you don't have 100% peace and joy and just like healthy excitement from God, don't do it, because you're not making a vow to another person that can be broken. You're making a vow to God Almighty. And we got to keep those vows. And it's super, super rare. It seems you don't hear people talking about this on TV anymore. You don't see it in movies, but it's the truth. And then people wonder why depression rates and high blood pressure rates and everything's off the chart, mental illness. Well, look at our private lives, how messy they are. So that's number one. Number two is when you are married from the start, and if you don't have them for 20 years, starting today, put healthy boundaries in your marriage. These are boundaries, and I'm a firm believer then, now, and in the future, guys and girls can't be friends. You can have acquaintances, but a man shouldn't be talking to another woman privately. Another woman shouldn't be talking to another man privately. If you're falling into that trap, it's seriously your lust inside lying to yourself and others so you can hopefully get to the end game of an affair. And that's just, again, human nature. Time's proven it. It's not rocket science. It's just guys and girls can't be friends. Boys have penis, girls have vagina. Eventually, if you're sharing things intimately, lines will be crossed, and those should only be husband and wife lines. So that's another thing. But I've always believed that. And then when it comes to your family and your children, there's so much. I knew these are certain things we should do. And it was just constant, not just nagging, twisting and manipulation and pressure. And I'm not good enough. And, if I don't do this, I'm not good enough. And these other people are doing it. They're so much better than you. It was a very well orchestrated side of this relationship that really twisted things up inside of me. And God brings peace and joy, period. All evil comes from Satan. So if you're walking around, you don't have that peace and joy, I thought you got to dig and find out why. You got to cut to the root cause and don't have emotion about it. Facts always lead to truth and good. Emotions can be little alarms hey, pay attention. But anywhere in the Bible, let's say, anywhere in life, look at friends you have. If you follow your emotions, it always falls apart. It's always a disaster. But when you follow the facts of what we need to do, it turns out great. Look at Jesus. Jesus didn't want to die on the cross. He emotionally did not want to die on the cross. He was saying, God, if there's another way, please remove this burden from me, but not my will, but your will. He was submitted to God. Beautiful picture of what we should all be. But his feelings said, heck no.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact and the truth is I'm going to the cross in obedience because I love my Father and he loves the world. So in a marriage, I found, there's so many things. There's a million things. There's like 2%, probably just like your life, that I talked about. It gets way worse and way more twisted, but there's also way more blessings. But the just knowing to have a hard boundary and to say, no, this is how it is. Our kids don't need this. I think long term, this is going to make them unhealthy. Like social media and stuff and cell phones. The kids shouldn't be on cell phones. And you see all these social media, quote unquote, famous people, and what do they call them? Influencers. Mm-hmm. And they make millions of dollars a month by being on cell phones. And you see them raise their kids. They don't let them have cell phones because they know it rots their brains, right? And you go to these Christian colleges and they tell the kids not to watch TV and movies and things that are filthy. That's great. They're trying to keep their minds pure and holy. Most of the world's like, look at those fanatics. That's horrible. You're so controlling. No, there's a difference between controlling and being judgmental and having good judgment and self-control. Okay. You go to West Point, a military academy. They don't let their cadets watch TV. They don't let them use the phone to call their friends. So how is it that a military institution that for 100 years has raised some of the best humans on the planet as far as leaders, they do it and it's recognized as right. But any Christian who does it is a extremist? That's a bunch of crap from Satan. Right is right, wrong is wrong, black is black, white is white. And so all these things I'm saying, Jamie, is just if you know what's right, talk to your spouse, come to an agreement, and then work it together and have like a balanced home. I was in a situation where we literally talk, come to an agreement, and then we go out, bring it to the kids, and she turn and say, this is your dad's idea. Like he's the bad guy. He's making me do this. And I just didn't know what to say. So I just took it. And it's so BS. But again, I'm going to be able to face God and be just fine. And she's going to have to face God and she is not going to be fine.
Yeah. What about the financial aspects, right? So just try to bring it back to the financial. It's all good advice. You went through this period where you're like couch surfing, right? And you're dealing, and I can't even imagine that, man. Like I'm, we're roughly the same age, and we're all professionals, and we've worked hard in our careers, and we did all the right things to get to where we are. And then there's this dramatic step back, which is, and I thought my financial life took a hit during my divorce. Man, like this is incredible that you were able to rise from the ashes out of this based on where you were. So let's, and man or woman or whatever, we work with a lot of women that are trying to figure it out, and a lot of men who are figuring out after the divorce is settled, because now they have to go from having this maybe a dual income family in one household, and they've just been living that life for 5, 10, 20 years, whatever the number is. And now all of a sudden, he now has to support 2 households on one income, and mom, or usually a stay-at-home mom, is now in a position where she has to go off and get a job because she needs to be able to figure out how to make ends meet. There's this kind of this tornado of stuff that's flying around us in those first few months after the divorce, where we're trying to figure out how we're going to rebuild our lives. Tell me how you did it, man. And like the practical steps you took, right?
And I want to be real clear, Jamie. I'm not against women. I'm against scumbags. I don't care if it's a guy or a girl. If you're an adulterer, you're a piece of crap and you need to get your life right. If you're stealing, lying, cheating, you're a piece of crap. You need to get your life right. I'm talking to you if it's you. Don't make excuses, right? Because I don't know your situation, but like me and a million men, or you listening now and a million other women, you have a crappy husband who treats you like trash and has serial affairs. He's a jerk. I'm trying to clean things up. I don't know what rating your podcast has. But what
I'm saying, go anywhere you want with it. Just let it drop.
Yeah. So I'm a guy talking about my situation. So I don't want somebody to think I'm against women. I'm against sin. I'm against bad people. Mm-hmm. I'm against dirtbags. But to answer your question about I have a beautiful, wonderful girlfriend now. Probably spend the rest of my life with her. I don't know. At this point, I can never get married. I can't think about getting married. So I'm not fully healed. I have a lot more healing to do. It's a process. But this is an amazing woman. And she had a tool for an ex-husband. And he was a scumbag. So we can understand and help each other and grow and say, hey, That's true, but move forward. Or, hey, this happened, but that's not me. So we're helping each other. And it's been a beautiful 3 years. But when it comes to how do you financially get out? So I was the breadwinner, but I was so depressed, I couldn't even work. I literally got up, put a smile on, took my kids to school, went back and cried for like 12 hours. I always did what I needed to do to get by, but it was terrible. And in the state of Florida where I lived, the laws were set up against men, huge. It doesn't matter what the women did. And this is true. If you're married 15 or more years, they had this crazy law that I'd have to pay lifetime alimony. Even it doesn't matter how bad the wife is. She could have murdered somebody and I have to pay lifetime. The husband has to pay lifetime alimony. Talk about sexist, right? So when all this stuff is going on, I could barely function for over a year. So I was living off savings. And then she spent like water. And it was as fast as I could make it, she could spend it our whole marriage. But during this time, she had like a vengeance. I'd be seeing 2 or 3 from credit card statements come in with like 10,000 on each. And I'm sitting there like just doing everything I can to keep up. So it's just burying me and burying me and burying me. And when we were done, took everything combined, she got the majority of it, lied to everybody, said I left her broke and poor and I was having the affair. Total BS, total lie. Told everybody. I said, I'll shoot drugs in my arm, poly, whatever it's called. I'll sit down and take a polygraph test. I'm clean. Yet there's still people that they're like, she is telling the truth and Dave's lying. So I'm like, okay, I have peace. I can face God. But now I'm 40 something years old and I think I walked away with a total of like $35,000 or $40,000. So all those years of work, all those years of that, I'm starting over with $35,000 or $40,000. So I'm like, well, it's better. It's more than some people have. And I just want peace. And I was happy with that. So what I did is I said, I need to make as much money as possible and I need to spend as little as possible. So I had this idea to get a travel trailer and then live in that. But right now after COVID, man, people are paying like as much as rent for a house to live on a piece of like a little driveway. It's ridiculous. So I buy this travel trailer with intent to travel and it was defective from the factory. So God had a different plan for me. So then I had to fight and get a lemon law that took like 9 months. That's why I was like sleeping on people's couches and stuff. The thing was a camper. I couldn't even drive it. It fell apart as you were driving it, right? So then now I'm like, okay, I got to work. I got to make money, but I also need a place to sleep. And then I'm looking at houses. I'm looking at property. And then one day it's like, I felt God talking to me. So this is where step 1 is. What's the vision? I was surviving. I was getting by. I was being reactive. But all of a sudden one day, God just gently, I could inside, not like I heard an audible voice, but it was like, Dave, what do you want? What's your ideal situation? So I wrote down what my ideal situation was. And I looked at it, Jamie, I'm like, that's impossible. It was, I want to live at a condo on the beach. I want to just have peace, blah, blah, blah. So then all of a sudden, praying about it, put it away. The next day, get a call from a realtor friend of mine. We end up looking at some properties and I'm looking at how much it's going to cost to build. And he knew me. He's like, Dave, you told me a few years ago you wanted a condo. Why don't you look at condos? I'm like, because it's not going to work out. So long story short, found a beautiful condo on the beach, worked it out. Now I have my own company, but I don't have any money in the bank. I just got divorced and banks don't care about humans. They care about money. So it's like you're self-employed and you just went through a divorce. You can't get a loan. So then I have to call my uncle who's in his 70s. And I said, Uncle, I don't need to borrow money, but can you co-sign a loan for me? So again, some people don't have that. Yeah. I actually had a family member who was willing to co-sign the loan. And from the beginning to today, I made every single payment. But then while that's going on, I'm paying child support and I'm paying for all their stuff anyways. And I'm paying health insurance and I'm paying all this money out the wazoo. So it's just, I had the wrong mindset. So the first thing I had was the vision. And then once I had the vision, it realized because I started working towards it. But then all the daily stuff, it was okay, how do I make more money? And I was depressed. I was super sad. Like, what's the purpose of making it? As soon as I make it, it goes out the window. But I had the wrong attitude. That's not a good biblically based attitude. That's a self-pity victim mentality, right? So I had to shift to, well, I got to do all things as unto the Lord. And then one thing that sounds terrible, right? But it worked out for the best. The lady who sold me my condo lied. There was construction damage from the beginning when this place was built. I found out after I bought. There was assessments pending, and they put in the contract, they basically said and even put in writing, it's going to be well under $20,000. So we'll put $20,000 in a trust, and whatever's left over, we just get back. So I'm like, okay. So in your mind, in my mind, and any sane human, you're set up to think that the assessments outstanding are going to be less than 20 grand. It's covered. Everything's fine. Mm-hmm. Well, this lady knew that was a lie. And long story short, it was $60,000 plus it might be more. So in that year now, I just got off divorce. The little bit of money I had, I put for a down payment of the home. I'm working and staying focused on, I have to make this much money. This is what I need to do. I'm doing my part. I'm letting God do his. And then all of a sudden it's by the end of the year, in 1 year, you got to give me 60 more grand. So it's like, okay, how do we do this, God? So then it was just, this is where I learned the next thing. I always would stress, and how am I going to do it? And how's it going to happen? So I just said, and my income plus all the expenses I need, plus 60 grand, that's the goal. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I just need to know what I need to do today. And sure enough, between the beginning of the year and December 12th of that year, all of that income and more was provided. So we always have to work hard. You can't just sit there and meditate and be like, oh, everything's going to happen. But I literally was like, just, okay, I'm doing my best, God. I'm not going to stress. And I had so much peace during that time. And it was really a great experience. So even though this lady screwed me, I could have sued her, but what do I do? Spend 2 to 4 more years in court, spend another 50 grand out of my pocket for an attorney. She knew that. And so I just said, hey, I hope you either get this right with me someday or you get 10 times what you did. That's it. Like, you want to say you didn't do it on purpose, then I hope you get 10 times the blessing. If you're the lying bitch I think you are, I hope you get 10 times the curse. You know, you choose your blessing. You choose your destiny. So that's how I left it. I just wrote an email and said, I'm not going to sue you, but I just want you to know, you did what's wrong and you're going to have to face God someday. Have fun. But then after that, I found myself, which a lot of people struggling after a divorce, men and women have it harder financially. I mean, I really believe that, because as a man, well, I shouldn't say it, because some men are actually taking care of young children, but the primary caregiver is typically the mother, good or bad, right? And so she has to be called in, if a kid gets sick, and she has to, take the kids to school if she's alone, if the husband abandoned her, is what I'm saying. And if a guy's in that situation, he has it, it's just not as common. So for me, my kids were now teenagers, late teens. One was graduating, the other one was like a sophomore in high school. So they were kind of independent. So now I could say I need to rest, because I'm between the depression and the exhaustion physically. I need to physically rest a lot. But when I'm up, I got to work. I got to focus on it. But that extra $60,000 that I had to pay out of my pocket, God used it to wake me up. Like, Dave, okay, I let you hibernate. You're a big bear. I let you hibernate. You had your season. Now get off your butt and work. And this last year and this year has been the best financial years of my life. This past month, the month we're in, July 2024, is the best financial month I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
And I didn't say I'm going to kill it. I'm going to close contracts early. It's just whatever happens, happens. And I'm humbled. I'm not going to talk about the numbers, but it's not Donald Trump, which I love that guy, but I'm saying I don't have a bank account where it's like in the millions right now, but my income this month, most people would be pretty like, seriously? And it's just all God. So I did my part. I had the vision. I worked I continued to grow. And then I kind of jumped around a lot, forgive me. But the other thing was, when all this was going on, I was hiding because of depression. I didn't want to get out there and face people. I didn't want to have to explain what happened. I didn't want to even just see people a lot. So the blessing of this lady screwing me over, and I had to force myself to get out there and work more, it snapped me out of her. It's like, hey, I'm already working. Why don't I keep it going? Or, hey, I did this. Why don't I do that too? And it just built. And now, I had a podcast that was successful, but we didn't do it for money. We did it just to help people, the Remarkable People podcast. Well, like, why aren't I doing affiliates? Why aren't I doing sponsors? And now that's a whole stream of income. So I get to help people the same way, but now I can spend more time, pay my intern, and advertise if I want to. Hopefully at the end of this year, we're going to start advertising. We're just finishing season 10. It's just great. And then the business took off. So if you're going through it, sometimes you're in survival mode. You just got to get through today. But once you start stabilizing out, set that vision of what you need and where you want to be, and then look at where you are today and what steps you need to take today to get there. And then keep doing it. But try to find the balance where you're not stressing about it and you're trusting that it's just going to happen. And that's when the magic happens and the flow state happens, and it just really works. I can't explain it, because I struggle with stressing and worry, and my blood pressure will go up, right? So I don't have it right. But when I do have it, it's an amazing place. I love it.
I've been there, man. We're one of the same when it comes to stuff like that, for sure. Everything you're saying is remarkable, and sounds like in some ways we married the same woman, right? So, and
the way she dated, you might have.
So there's that. Last question before I let you go, man. I know, and I this is all such good information. Talk to me about the work that you do, because I know you do work with individuals and people, business owners, and the people that are listening. If they want to work with somebody like you, how do they get in touch with you, and what does that experience look like for them if they were to try to engage your services?
Yeah. So before my career, from the time I got out of college on, actually before college, I was working when I was in college. Actually, I worked when I was 15. I started working full time when I was 14. Started working part-time when I was 11. So I've always worked. We shoveled snow when we were 6, 7 years old. So anything to make money, we did. But right now, what my company does, I'm a sales and marketing organization. So we talk to small and medium-sized businesses, and same thing I just talked about on the show. I ask them, what's your goal? And I help them develop them if they really don't know. Then we look at where they realistically at in relation to that goal and their competition. And then we reverse engineer the plan to get there. And then when they're done, I say, here's a handbook, run with it on your own. Here's a handbook, we'll coach you while you achieve it. Or here's the handbook, but we'll run the plays for you. You can just hire us. So some companies, they just hire us to build websites and set up their marketing campaign, and then they're on autopilot. Some people, I do sales coaching for them individual. Some I do team sales coaching. Some it's straight up consulting, like, hey, this is the problem we're having. What do you suggest? And we work it out and then go. And I do a lot of stuff with video. So, who wants to read a 250-page debriefing report? So what I do is I take a piece of each of their business and I record the segment, just like this, me talking on the camera. And then they can just take, hey, I'll make it simple, like the website. They copy the link, they send it to their website developer, like implement these suggestions, or implement the first, the third, and the fifth. Don't do the rest. They can choose. Boom, here's our sales brochure. These are the changes he suggested. They send that to their graphic designer. So the sales and marketing video guide's a great product I use to start with small businesses or medium-sized businesses. It's just easy plan to get a real catalyst for change. But my whole thing is helping people to grow. And I think you said, do you do coaching as well? Do you coach people?
We do a little bit of coaching, yeah.
Yeah. So anytime you coach people, executive coaching, even you get people working for like Fortune 100 orgs, 90% of it's personal that you're coaching them on. Yeah. So I went back and I didn't go back and get an MBA. I got a master's in it's a human services degree with a focus in executive leadership, but I just wanted to understand human nature better. So I got my Bible I read every day. I got that degree just to have some, whatever letters after my name. But when you're coaching people in organizations, I held myself back. You, Jamie, probably held yourself back. When we coach people, they're holding themselves back. So the meetings we have, it's not going to be, all right, what happened last week? What's your opportunity this week? Okay, this is what you do by the time we meet next week. It's like, okay, why didn't you get this done? And we explore it and we talk about it and we dig to the core, hopefully, rip out the root and throw it away. So that's it. So from consulting to coaching to marketing, websites, social media marketing, that's what my company does in a nutshell right now.
Awesome. And coaching is where it's at, right? I mean, I think I grew up in New England, right? So for those of you that are listening, take this for what it's worth. But as far as I'm concerned, Tom Brady walks on water.
I'm from Milford, Mass. Where are you from?
Okay. I'm from Rhode Island. I grew up in Rhode Island. So I was shoveling snow at 6 and 7 years old, and I had my first job was 13 years old. And I was what they call the hose dog on the oil truck. So my uncle had an oil company where we had, in New England and a lot of places around the country, you heat your home with number 2 heating oil. And that was my first job. So I was out there waist deep in the snow, pulling the hose off the truck and hooking it up to the house and making sure people had heat in the winter. That was my 13 years old. That was my first job. So Tom Brady, but Tom Brady even has a coach, right? And even to this day, he has sales coaches and personal coaches, and he's been coached to do the work that he does on his new sports gig, right? So he's been coaching. Like, I think we all need coaches, and when you're going through a divorce and you're trying to pick up the pieces of that life that's been unraveling over the years, and there's the personal component of it and the financial component of it and so on, and a lot of people that we work with are business owners, right? So they need to work with someone like you who can help them stay focused and make sure their business doesn't, suffer because of the personal situation that they're in. And I think it's, if you're out there listening, there's no reason not to find somebody there to support you and create that. I say it all the time. It's creating team you, right? Yeah. You have your divorce coach, you have your business coach, you have your financial coach, you have legal coaches, in the form of attorneys and so on to help you through this process. And I really think that's where people will succeed. Especially when they're going through that tornado of, the disaster of a divorce like most of us have gone through.
Yeah. And to chime in on that, I agree with you, Jamie, completely. And did you ever see little kids when they bowl, they put the bumpers in the gutters? Sometimes we need to put the bumpers through our friends and through our business associates. I use the word balance a lot. The Bible says iron sharpeneth iron, so the man the countenance of his friend. And we all need balance in our life, right? But accountability, that's another word, I'm using them interchangeably. Balance and accountability and boundaries, all different, but all similar meanings. So what you're saying is super wise, Jamie. When you're going through a divorce, especially, you need to find people you really can trust, and you need to help them keep you accountable, because men and women, 8 out of 10 times they go through a horrible divorce, they start doing stupid things. They start drinking, they start doing drugs, they start sleeping around. All you're doing is hurting your family and yourself more for generations to come. So you have to, and it's understandable. I'm not being like, you're a horrible human because you went out and, you got drunk and had sex with a stranger. That's not right. I'm telling you, that's not right. It's not right. But what I'm saying is it's not right. It's not healthy, but it's understandable. But that one understandable night can really screw you over for the rest of your life. It can set a precedent for our kids. There's all sorts of stuff. So stay the course and do what's right, and put friends that are bumpers in that bowling alley, because you're like a freaking ball that's thrown wild right now. And until you can straighten your course, put bumpers in your alley, and then let them know they have, for a guy too. Like, I had friends, I'm like, literally punch me in the face. If I go off that beaten path, just punch me in the face, take me out, do what you got to do. I don't care. Just don't let me go down that road. And I had great friends. And what's really crazy is, Jamie, I don't know if you can talk about this, but there's a lot of people in our lives we surround ourselves with, and they're our quote unquote friends, and they're there every day. We do holidays with them. But when the proverbial crap hits the fan, they weren't the ones there. They were people who care, people who went through it, people who you didn't even know you were that close to. man, those people rose above and were there in your darkest moments. And the other people were just fair weather friends. So that's why I said, make sure when you hand the keys to the kingdom over, you hand them to the right person.
No more powerful words have been spoken. That's for sure. When I went through my divorce back in 2017, I didn't surround myself with the people that were most important to me. I made the mistake of trying to keep them at arm's length. So they weren't, I wanted to protect them. I wanted to keep them out of the, out of the center of this tornado, so to speak, like I keep going back to. And I wanted them just to be protected and not have to deal with it, because I figured, this is challenging on them, and this is my problem, not their problem. And it was the absolute wrong thing to do. Yeah. And, I lost family members over it because, she beat me to the punch, and she, just like your ex-wife, shared some things that were blatantly false about you to some folks. The same thing happened to me. And those people decided that they were going to take, what she said as gospel, no pun intended here. And those family members are no longer family members as far as I'm concerned. So that's it's hurtful. It's painful. It's sad. But, I had some fair weather family, obviously, because instead of reaching out and saying, hey, this is what I'm hearing, it can't possibly be true because I've known you for, 40 years now. And I know who you are as a person and how you conduct your business and what have you. And then, unfortunately, that didn't happen with a lot of them. And that's just, just where the chips fell, at this stage. But
I'm truly sorry to hear that. I really am. And like you said, we hear it so many times, the same story. But you did ask me something earlier. What I recommend doing in the middle of this storm? If you're listening now, again, male or female, if you're hurting, I care. And God cares more than I ever could or Jamie ever could. But journal. Even if you don't know what you're doing or why, journal. It doesn't have to be a novel. It could be a few sentences. Journal and date what is going on in your life. Because I'm not kidding. Just last week, I picked up an old journal, and I was like, what is this? Or, what's in here? And I found the exact day and time that my son was lied to. And I can identify the moment where he was lied to and made confused, and our relationship broke and severed at that point. And then we spent all these years rebuilding it because of the lies he was told and the people involved. But that was when you go through this stuff, I have gaps in my memory. I literally ran to a guy one day at a restaurant. He's like, hey, Dave, how you doing? I'm like, hey, how are you? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know who this guy is. And he's like, he knows personal stuff about me, and he knows all about me. And finally, I'm with other business people. And I stopped him. I said, sir, I am so sorry. I said, I went through a really crazy period in my life, and I don't remember how we know each other. He's like, Dave, you came in my company and made me $2 million. It's like, you don't remember that? I'm like, congratulations. I'm happy for you. I said, but I am sorry. Please know I'm not on drugs. I just had some trauma, and I have gaps in my memory that I dumped. And clearly, let me guess, we met between 2015 and 2018. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, there you go. So if you're going through this stuff, you got to take care of yourself, sleep. It's not a joke. Sleeping and going to the gym. I don't care. And I'm not trying to be, come on. If you're a lazy fat ass, right? I can be a lazy fat ass. If you are a hard worker and you love the gym, you got to push your body. If pushing your body means 10 minutes on the elliptical, or if you're a freaking triathlete and it means add an extra 30 minutes with weights on your back, you got to push your body when you're under this amount of stress so it stays calm all the rest of the day. God made us to work and to move, okay? So I don't care what your physical shape is. You can be skinny and healthy. You can be fat and unhealthy. You can be fit and have high blood pressure. You can be literally 350 pounds and have perfect blood pressure because you don't process things under stress. But what I'm telling you is take care of yourself through sleep. Make sure you're journaling, work out, drink a lot of water. But that journaling, looking back when you're not sleeping, we have gaps in your memory. I can go back now through that journal and be like, oh, I remember that. I'm not going crazy. That actually happened. Like, because people will tell you, especially if like Jamie and I, if you are with a true sociopath or narcissist, they're going to gaslight you and tell you things didn't happen or tell you the same story a different way. I have documents, and hopefully, like I said, my kids get involved. We have documented at the counselor, Jamie. We weren't even in the room. Stuff I didn't even know about. My kids told the counselor in private sessions. You ask my kids about those same instances now, after my ex had time to brainwash them, their whole memory shifted.
Yeah.
So for yourself, if you're listening now, it's between you and God. Your life is between you and God, not your spouse, not your kids. Nobody else is going to face God at the end of this life but you. So journal and take notes, because one day those, you may never look at them again, or you may be like me, where you just open it randomly and God really shows you something that is a positive catalyst in your life, a confirmation, healthy, or to help you unlock. Wow, I've had the same problem for 5 years. Maybe that's me. How many times do I have to look at myself in the mirror and say, yeah, you got issues. You got to take care of this. So that's all. I'm really jumping around over here, but like I was telling Jamie before the recording, I've been very sleep deprived lately, and I was falling asleep driving to get to this interview.
That's awesome, man. I kept you too long, but there's so many good nuggets of inspiration and the moments of triumph and all the other stuff that you've been through that I think is not only inspirational to me, but inspirational to our listeners. So thanks again, man. I'm super appreciative of you being here. And thank you again, listeners, for once again joining us today. And I'm so appreciative of you for sharing your insights and your thoughts on personal and professional growth. To explore more about David's transformative techniques and resources, please visit davidpasqualone.com. And if you're navigating some of the financial or emotional challenges of a divorce, especially some of the things that Dave talked about today, remember that help is available for you both through him and through us at allegiantds.com, where you can book a free consultation with us. And if you have questions about the stuff that Dave's talked about today, I'm happy to put you in touch with him. You can visit his website. You can come through us. We'll make sure you get you guys connected if you need the help. And don't forget to subscribe for more empowering conversations coming your way here soon. And until next time, stay motivated and focused on your journey to personal success. Thanks again for being with us today.
Oh, it's an honor. Thank you so much.